Hello and welcome back to the Maximum Mileage Run with Nick coaching channel. If you are new to the channel, then please do subscribe, like and share. It really helps a lot. Comment below and let me know what you think about this video. I'm open to feedback and I'm open to challenge too. So let's get into it. You are probably trying to run faster, trying to run smarter, healthier. So you study the science, you get all the books. You know, I've read them all and I've got more behind me here. So yeah, you're studying the science. You are following up the data, you're really getting into it, but you still end up feeling tired, flat, and probably confused. Well, let me tell you the truth. The science might actually be ruining your training, not because it's wrong, but because it's not built for you. And in my humble opinion, and you know what they say about opinions, but I'm going to give it anyway. In my humble opinion, too many athletes, too many coaches become so fixated on the science, the physiology, kinematics, data points, yada yada, they just lose sight of what is probably the most important factor, the human being. Whether you're a coach, it's the human being in front of you, or if it's you trying to do your own training, you are a human being. Sure, absolutely, and I love it. Trust me, I love it. I read all these books. I listen to all of the podcasts and USCA certified, which is very much grounded in the science. And the scientific principles are essential, but effective coaching also demands intuition, adaptability, a genuine understanding of each athlete's individual unique circumstances. It is about blending the precision of science with the subtle art, and I call it the art of coaching. So with that, let's get into it. I've got some key talking points here. Let's break that lab coat logic myth. First of all, many running studies primarily involve sub-elite or elite male athletes in highly controlled environments like labs. Roughly, I think I saw a figure, something like roughly that 70 to 75% of endurance research predominantly features male athletes who are probably ideally rested, perfectly nourished, and training in optimal conditions. Conditions that are going to be vastly different from your daily reality, which is probably, your reality is managing a demanding job, parenting responsibilities, household chores, or caring for family members, all while squeezing in, whatever quality runs per week that you can manage. You're fitting intervals around school drop-offs, tempo runs between work meetings, and weekend long runs when you probably desperately need to stay in bed for an extra hour. Despite all those good intentions, researchers really capture these real-world scenarios. Their controlled experiments don't account for, your kids puking in the middle of the night, looming work deadlines, emotional exhaustion. Science offers us insights, but success comes from adapting that research to your unique life and your unique circumstances, rather than forcing your reality into rigid scientific frameworks, because that's what the science says. Effective training should accommodate your daily challenges. It needs to offer you flexibility so that you continue progressing even when life gets messy. And it does. Life happens. Next one, the 80-20 training principle isn't always practical. Now, the 80-20 rule, very popular rule, popularized by Matt Fitzgerald. Great book, love it. Read it a few times. I do follow the principle to an extent. The 80-20 rule is, for those of you that don't know, but you probably heard about it, it is 80% low intensity training and 20% high intensity training. Now, this is effective for many runners, absolutely. This is why I do apply a version of this principle to my training and my coaching. It is effective, particularly for those training nearly every day. However, if you are limited to fewer weekly runs and you are strictly following the 80-20 rule, it becomes impractical. There is research that shows that for runners with limited training time, the focus should shift to balancing intensity with adequate recovery rather than a rigid adherence to ratios. So prioritizing one high intensity session, and when I say high intensity, I'm talking about the range of different speed works, intervals, tempo, hills, etc. They all kind of fit into that high intensity bracket. And then a couple of lower intensity runs per week, and then perhaps that one long run. All of those adjusted based on your life and your physical feedback. Now that can be far more effective. Your training plan should reflect your new unique circumstances. There is not a one size fits all formula, and where that then becomes practical, the 80-20 rule might apply to somebody like me who is training 6 days a week. But for, Debbie in Cambridge, who's got 4 kids and a really busy job and can only run 3 days a week, then you might want to be thinking about, for somebody like Debbie, that she does one nice and easy run, one long run with some mixed intensity in that, depending on the race that she's training for, and then you've got your one quality intensity session per week. Next up, the risks of overtraining by the book. Following a rigid training plan can leave you feeling exhausted, demotivated. I see it all the time, particularly with those kind of type A individuals. I see it in people in military, quite bad for it. People in IT seem to be quite bad for it as well. I don't know why, but it is that militant following of a plan because that's what the plan says and I've got to do it. But it isn't a personal failure by not following the plan and adapting it, but it is a consequence of applying generalized advice to your specific circumstances. Research clearly indicates that sleep deprivation significantly impairs athletic performance, increases injury risks, reduces recovery effectiveness. Yet I still see so many people trying to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning when they didn't go to bed until 11 o'clock last night because their training plan said they have to do that run. However, this is where training plans must prioritize individual recovery and adaptability. Optimal training isn't about that strict adherence to a predetermined schedule or workout. It's about finding that balance that suits your lifestyle and ensures that long-term progress. Here's another one that gets on my tits, and that is the hard days hard, easy days easy. But how practical is that principle? You might hear it a lot. You might hear coaches say you need to keep your hard days hard and your easy days easy. And whilst the science promotes pairing high intensity running days, so your intervals, hills, that kind of stuff, with strength training on the same day, there are studies that reveal that this can significantly increase fatigue, especially for us recreational everyday athletes who are juggling busy lives. Research indicates performing strength and endurance training on the same day will increase your fatigue, perceived exertion, and reduces running efficiency. For busy people like us, separating strength training onto lighter running days or even rest days can be more practical and beneficial. I see it all the time, and when I get a new athlete, because the science says that we should be doing our hard days hard and our easy days easy, I do invariably start that off. That's how I will program somebody's training. If they're running 5 days a week, we want to give them a rest day. So one day will be strength, and then another day I will put their second strength training session on the same day as an interval session. But time and time again, I find this personally, I get it so often with athletes I start coaching, the feedback I invariably get is, can we move my strength training to another day because I just find it too tiring to do a hard interval session or tempo or whatever it might be on the same day as strength training. I just tend to find 99% of the time that anecdotal, that subjective feedback from the athlete, it's too tiring for them. So I move their strength training, put it on a different day, an easy day. This is where they've had a sleep in between, and therefore they should be more rested, but they feel better having them separated out. And this is where coming back to tailoring your training to fit your energy levels, recovery capacity, and lifestyle constraints is essential, rather than strictly adhering to those textbook recommendations. So think about that with your strength training. Yes, you might want to be starting off by doing your hard days hard and your easy days easy, but I would also say if your strength training is really super hard, then you're probably doing a bit too much as well. Now, this one, I often get strung up by the bollocks or balls. For people who don't know what a bollock is, I think that's not a particularly big term in the US. And I've done a video on this very recently about how many miles a week, how much volume you should be running per week. And whilst mileage is important, more mileage isn't always better. And I don't care how much people argue in the face that increasing your training volume, yes, it can enhance performance, but only when balanced with adequate recovery, which for us non-elite athletes is something we tend to be a little bit time poor for. You know, recovery is something that we struggle to find time to actually integrate it into our training, because the message is so kind of get your miles in. You know, you see so many YouTube videos out there of all these influencers doing 150-mile weeks in their marathon training block. Great, but just think a lot of these guys actually do it full time, and then the elite athletes, they definitely do it full time. It's their job to run, but as part of that job, they'll go out and do a 30k long run on a Tuesday morning, but then they come back and they go to sleep for 2 hours, 3 hours. They get to have a nap. Whereas us mere mortals, if we go out for a 30k run on a Tuesday morning, we don't get to 3-hour nap. We have to get the kids ready for school. We have to get ready for work. We've got emails to start answering. We're probably struggling to even get breakfast in, let alone have a nap. Yes, volume is great if you can do it with recovery. And you've got to think the more volume you add, you need to be then thinking about an additional and equal amount of time. So if you chuck in an extra hour's worth of running, you need to be thinking about where can I get an extra hour's worth of recovery from, which a lot of us mere mortals don't have. And anyway, there is actually some evidence, research highlighting diminishing returns and potential performance decline when recovery is insufficient. And this study, which is by Valera Sanz, it was a collaboration between various Spanish universities and faculties. It was only done last year, and it showed recreational runners improved performance training up to 5 days per week, but gains plateaued, and beyond this frequency, without the increased rest, it actually started to diminish. So prioritizing recovery is just as crucial as increasing your training frequency. So there you have it, folks. I have a little bit of a saying. Sometimes the science can go fuck itself, because science gives us clues, but your body and your own life situation, that's what gives us the truth. Your sleep, stress, nutrition, and schedule are the real data that matters most. So if you are done training like a lab rat and you're ready to train like a real world athlete, which you truly are, let's do this together. One plan, one coach, built specifically for you. Drop me a message, comment below, whatever you want to do, send me an email, visit maximummileagecoaching.com, talk to me or one of my coaches. We've helped hundreds of people like you that don't do this for a living. You actually have a job to do. You've got kids, you've got stuff going on. Drop us a message. We've helped loads of people like you to run everything from sub-3 marathons to 100-mile ultras to multi-days, the spine race, you name it. We've helped everybody. So drop us a note and I will see you in the next video.